Hello everyone, xForts here, and welcome to JoJolion Chapter 64 review, titled The Plant Appraiser Part 1. Okay, so Chapter 64, we're done with the Blue Hawaii arc. Thank God we're not in Blue Hawaii Part 4 right now. And like I mentioned, the Plant Appraiser is one of the most interesting characters in JoJolion right now, at least for me. And this chapter really didn't need to be called The Plant Appraiser Part 1 because, spoilers, he doesn't show up until the very last page of the chapter. Most of the chapter is a flashback, and that's a good thing because it is one of the most substantial chapters we've had in a very long time in terms of plot progression and answering questions that we've been asking for a long time now. It's mostly about Kaato and Jobin. We find out who Kaato murdered and why she murdered them to go to prison. So those are big questions that were revealed in this chapter. So let's get right into it. But before we get into the chapter, let me talk about the cover of this month's issue of Ultra Jump because it's Josuke and Soft and Wet dancing together and they look beautiful. The way that Soft and Wet's grabbing onto Josuke and the way Josuke is supporting him, and it almost has sort of a Great Days theme to it with the background text saying higher and higher and Josuke pointing up to the sky. Also, we're still celebrating 30 years of JoJo, although it's been like 4 months now, so I guess just all of 2017 is a 30 year of JoJo celebration. I'm okay with that, so yeah, that's the cover. Araki always nails with the cover of these Ultra Jump issues, and especially the color palettes are just spot on. Okay, so now on to the chapter itself, starting with the cover page, and it's pretty simple. It's just Yasuo and Gappy with their stands behind them, and it looks like Araki's sort of suffering from same face syndrome again. It was really prevalent in part 7, especially the cover with, I believe it was Lucy, Gyro, and Johnny. Their faces were just exactly the same. I think it's just the eyes that are giving me this sort of notion that their faces are the same. If you look at some of their eyebrows and their mouths and their noses, you can tell differences between them, but it's mostly the eyes that are giving me that same face feel, but still definitely different. So now on to the first real page of the chapter, and it's sort of a inner monologue, almost as if it's a narration of Tsurugi, sort of talking about how, you know, people don't get to choose the location of where they're born. They don't even get to choose their name, sort of saying that you have to accept the life that you're given. You know, you don't get to choose things when you're born, and this definitely is relevant when it comes to Tsurugi, as he was born the first son or the firstborn of a Higashikata generation, so he's inevitably at some point in his life, around age 10 or so for males it's known as, he's going to suffer from the rock disease. And then he continues to talk about the rock disease, how his grandpa Norisuke told him the story of how he suffered from the rock disease too, and how his mother, Norisuke's mother, had to sacrifice herself in order to save him. So pretty much, this is just getting us prepared for what's later to come in the chapter, sort of reminding us of the rock disease because it's going to come up later in the chapter. And then while Tsurugi is going on this inner monologue, we're seeing locations of Morioh in its previous state before Kaato was arrested, and we also get dialogue saying things like, this is something the Higashikata family has done for generations now. It's not tradition, it's not something we celebrate, it's not even something we're forced to do, it's just something we do. And Tsurugi says that the family does it because Norisuke's mother decided to do it. So, I mean, really, they are kind of forced to do it, or they're just enduring this curse that's on their family and this rock disease that the first generation, the first child of each generation suffers from. So, in a sense, they sort of are forced to do it, but it's just something their family endures more. So, I like how instead of a narration or something, we actually got some inner monologue from Tsurugi there, because we haven't seen a lot of Tsurugi, and of course, he is the best boy in all of JoJolion right now, so Tsurugi is definitely going to have some interesting character developments within the coming chapters of JoJolion, because I would be very surprised if we do not see his rock disease develop in some way throughout all of JoJolion, and maybe a member of the family, maybe even Norisuke, has to sacrifice himself in order to save his grandson. So I think that's just my theories of where JoJolion might be going, but I think that's definitely going to be an aspect of the part in later chapters. So now we're thrown into the flashback where we see baby Hato, and I love baby Hato so much because she's not wearing any different clothing from when she's an adult. She's still in the same jumpsuit, sort of the one piece, and she's also in the same shoes, and her hairstyle is the same. It's almost as if you just took Hato and you just shrunk her and then made her a little fatter. And then you have a baby Hato. It's awesome. And then we see Kaato is actually with her. They're sort of having a picnic out, and Hato's like eating this doll, and she like gives it to Kaato, and Kato's like, no thanks, I don't like eating toys or whatever. But in this chapter, we see a lot of Kato's personality and really who she is and what she devotes herself to. So interesting stuff with Kaato this chapter, and I like her a lot more than I did before. So and now we see the location that they're at, and they're near a very important shrine near the Higashikata residence. And then we see Joubin climbing a tree. So it seems like it's just Hato and Joubin and Kaato in the location right now. Joshu could be around somewhere, same with Daya. But I believe at this point in time, she would be pregnant with either Joshu or Daya. Okay, so now that I think about the time period, Kaato is most likely pregnant with Daya right now, and Tsurugi hasn't even been conceived yet. So Daya's in her stomach, Joubin's 10, and Hato's like 4 or 5 or something like that. So, okay. I didn't know that. I just assumed she was pregnant with Tsurugi, but now that I see the age of Joubin, I realize that's not the case. But anyways, we see Joubin climbing a tree, and there's sort of some, you can get philosophical with this depending on how you look at it, but just by the panels alone, without even dialogue, we can see how much Kaato actually cares for her family. So she just, obviously your 10-year-old child's climbing a tree. He should probably get down. It's dangerous. So she says, Joubin, can you please climb back down? It's dangerous up there. And you see Joubin looking up into the sky. And then you see another panel back at Kaato. And she's crying. She's developing tears. And then you see a close-up of Joubin's face. And you see the crack. And this gives us the idea that Joubin is around 10 years old right now. And he's beginning to suffer from the rock disease. His body's already cracking. And just by seeing this, Kaato just being reminded of what's happening to her son right now, it makes her cry. Just like that. And then on the next panel, she has tears all down her face. So Kaato very much cares for her family. Like, a lot. And then we see even more of this in the next scene. So we skip to another scene, still in around the same time period, as Joubin is still the same age, and same with Kaato and everything. And it's pretty much just Joubin getting ready to go out on a Boy Scouts excursion, which is awesome. Joubin was a Boy Scout at one time. Great stuff. So there's this one kid. It looks like the Boy Scouts came to the Higashikata house to pick up Joubin, and the kid, one of the members of the Boy Scouts is like, here, Miss Higashikata, Kaato, my family went on this trip recently. Here's a souvenir. Have it for the whole family. Just being very nice to her, showing a lot of affection. And Kaato shows affection back, saying, oh, thank you very much. Tell your your parents that I'm very thankful for this. But later we find out that this kid is a fucking piece of shit asshole. Yes, this kid. I think he's in like middle school, but he's an asshole and he deserved to die. Okay, but we'll get back onto that later. So now we just see more of Kato's character, showing how she very much is protective of her children and how she cares for them. Joubin's shoe is untied. She gets down on her knees, even while pregnant, to tie his shoe. And Joubin's like, come on, Mom, you're embarrassing me. She's like, it's okay. And, she reminds him of everything. You have your wallet over here. You have all your belongings over here. And she even writes him out an entire notepad of an emergency phone call. Just things. She's very much looking out for her children, very mother-like, one of the best mothers we've seen in like all of manga. It seems like parents in manga are always so shitty, but Kato's a great mother so far. And then even the Boy Scouts realize how much Kaato is sort of babying Joubin, and they're like, don't worry, we'll be back by around, 1 in the afternoon. So it's really not that long Joubin's going to be gone, but Kaato still cares. So then they all leave, and he says, all right, bye, Mom. And this is where shit starts to get real. So once they get out on their Boy Scouts excursion, they're in like the middle of the woods, it looks like, and today they're going to learn how to make fire without using matches. And this one kid just has this weird piece of dialogue where he's like, I changed my shampoo, touch my hair. And just Joubin, being a 10-year-old kid, is like, oh, he told me to do this, let me go do it. And he starts touching his hair, and he just gets the shit smacked out of him. And Joubin's face when he takes pain in this chapter, especially when a little kid, is so sad looking. I feel so much for Joubin, and it makes me like his character a lot more now that he's an adult, knowing what he had to endure, really. So, I mean, this kid is just a complete asshole. He told these people to touch his hair because he changed his shampoo, and then when it's Joubin who touches him, he smacks the shit out of him, and then we learn out later that these two actually knew each other before all of this, and they actually had some sort of a plan set up. So he grabs Joubin by the ear, and he rips him off to the side, and he's like, are you fucking listening to me, Joubin, like, you little bitch? And Joubin's just like, ah! Like, getting his ear just destroyed. So I'd say a majority of this chapter is the bullying segment, so I'm going to go over it pretty briefly and just kind of give you guys the shorthand, because there is a lot of exposition and a lot of explaining and a lot of minor details. But so pretty much this bully that gave his Joubin's mother, Kaato, the souvenir, wanted something in exchange. And later, I guess that same morning when he gave her the souvenir, he already had talked to Joubin, and for the souvenir, he wanted Joubin to give him his mom's underwear, his mom's bra, and even take pictures of her like in the shower. So I guess this kid has sort of like a pregnant fetish, I guess, because like yeah, Kato's really hot, but I mean, pregnant is kind of a turnoff. So whatever, I guess these kids don't give a shit. They're super horny. So the kid's like really beating the shit out of Joubin. like, hey, do you got the stuff? Do you got the stuff and everything? Like, why you fucking with me? I'm gonna light your hair on fire. Just being a real asshole to Joubin. I mean, that's what bullies do, I guess. But this guy, later in the chapter, we find out that he's a bit more than a bully. He's kind of a sociopath. So Joubin reveals that, yes, he has the underwear, he has the bra, and these kids are just fucking sweating, losing their mind. First time they've seen anything remotely close to a titty. They're just freaking out. And I like Joubin's face during all this. He's so confused. Like, he's just like, here, I have this. I brought this too. He's just so confused, and these kids are just like being the biggest assholes to him. But later we find out that because Joubin is so far into his rock disease thing, his face is cracking, and he can't even remember. Like, it's a known symptoms of the rock disease that your body will start to deteriorate, all your skin will start cracking and harden like a rock, and you'll start losing your memory as well, and you won't even be able to remember what you did the last day. And that's about as far as Joubin is into his disease right now. He can't remember yesterday. And it seems like most of the other children are aware of this because they just start beating the shit out of him, and they're just sort of kind of their punching bags. He's like, oh, he won't remember this anyways, so it doesn't even matter what we do to him. So while they're just continuing to bully Joubin, and they're looking at the pictures that he took of his mom in the shower, which is kind of fucked up, Joubin, come on, dude. They're looking at those, and sort of the supervisor of the Boy Scouts comes over and is like, hey, what are you guys doing? She knows what's up. She knows that they're bullying the shit out of Joubin, because, I mean, he stands out. You know, if something's different about you, kids are probably going to pick on you. He has a cracked face. That's just a big target for people to attack him and sort of target him as someone to bully. So she sees Joubin on the ground, and there's obviously two older people sort of surrounding him. So she's like, Joubin, you can tell me, like, it's fine. Like, I know what these guys are doing. And the bullies are, of course, like, oh, nothing's happening. Let's get back to it. And she knows what's up. She's not stupid. She knows that they're really picking on Joubin hard. So then we have a pretty abrupt skip to, I guess, a couple days or a day after the excursion for the Boy Scouts. Araki used to do these things in Steel Ball Run that would give us a good indicator of when a time period was shifting. It seems he doesn't do that anymore. Maybe he only does it for very specific times or very specific instances, but it was just a immediate shift to Joubin getting smacked again. And the bully freaking out because he's like, oh, the woman found out. She told my father. She told the police. My life is fucking ruined. She told everyone that I was bullying on you, and they found the underwear. They found the pictures. Like, what the fuck, Joubin? And he thinks Joubin snitched. That's why he's freaking out. So Joubin, just like bleeding on the ground, completely fucked up. It's like, I didn't do anything. I didn't say anything. I didn't do anything. Although, I mean, I do believe Joubin that he didn't snitch or anything. He very much could have, because he can't remember the day before. He might have just been very sad and been like, yeah, they were picking on me. They made me take pictures of my mom and shit. And then he just forgot the next day. But, I think Joubin, Joubin's a fucking beast right now. Joubin didn't tell. Joubin's no snitch. Yes, this guy's just freaking out saying, because you told on me, the woman found the panties, the photos, the police found him, my dad found him, I'm fucking screwed right now. And so what this guy has a bright idea to do is to have a thing of gasoline, a thing of oil, and a lighter. And he wants Joubin, he dragged Joubin to the woman's house, sort of the supervisor of the Boy Scouts that told the police and his father. This bully wants Joubin to go and burn her bedroom down and essentially burn her entire house down, starting with her room, so she dies and isn't able to talk to the police or anything anymore. Although the police already know about all this, so I don't know what sort of effect killing her would have, but whatever. The bully wants to force Joubin to burn her house down, starting with her room with her in it. Just like extremely fucked up sociopathic shit, because he's like, the lights are off, she's sleeping, just go dump oil all over her and light her room on fire. Like, yeah, this guy's obviously fucked in the head. And he sort of wants Joubin to do it sort of as payback and revenge, because he thinks Joubin snitched, and also he's like, you won't fucking remember what happened yesterday, what's wrong with you, you retard. And he's just like, you're the perfect person to do this, no one's gonna suspect you of doing it. And he just keeps going on, like, he just ugly punk ass face, sweating, boiling up, tearing, crying, just looks like a little bitch, and he's just spewing off terrible shit like, if you don't do this when you get older and people are still making fun of me about this, I'm gonna rape your mom and then I'm gonna murder you. Just this kid is fucked up and he needs to go. So after saying he was gonna rape his mother and then bury her in the bottom of a pond and then kill Joubin, he proceeds to put the oil and the gasoline all over Joubin's body and hold a lighter to his face. Apparently now he just wants to kill Joubin and light Joubin on fire, because apparently that will help his situation somehow. I hate this kid so much. I really do. So he just says, just holding the lighter to Jobin's face, sort of saying, go light and burn that woman alive right now, or else I'm going to burn you alive. And then Joubin, in a very stressful situation, on the brink of death, reaches his hand out and is just like, I don't know what to do, just screaming, and then you just see bubbling happening on the kid's face. And then you see baby Speed Cane, chibi Speed Cane. It's pretty much the same Speed Cane, although his mouth is a little pudgier. So I don't know if this is another redesign of Speed Cane, or it's just sort of him in his kid version. Someone sent me some fan art on Twitter of them coloring it, and it looks pretty good. I'll put it on screen now. But yes, I'm not sure if this is, I assume this is Joubin's first time using Speed Cane, although someone did tell me that maybe it's not because he can't remember what he did yesterday, so quite possibly it's not his first time using Speed Cane, but I couldn't imagine Joubin being in a situation that's more stressful than this to manifest his standout. So me personally, I think this is the first time he used his stand because it was such a stressful, life-threatening situation. He was just forced to manifest it and completely melt this kid's eyeball off, and sort of, it's kind of annoying. I like to see stands used in different and creative ways, but so far, we've seen Speed Cane used. Every single time Speed Cane's been used, it's been used in the exact same way. On the Beetle, on Yasuo, and now on this guy. It's just always heating up near the brain and just sort of melting it. So pretty much the exact same way he attacked Yasuo, he attacks this kid in, and he just sort of melts the vein in his head. Although this time he does a lot more damage to this boy than he does Yasuo, because this boy is pretty much knocked out for good, and he does come back conscious in a little bit, but he's still really disoriented, and Joubin fucked this guy up. So then you just see the boy pass out on top of him, and then Joubin makes his way home, and then you see Kaato tucking in Hato in bed, and then Joubin just slowly walks into the frame, covered in gasoline, bleeding blood all over his face, and he's just like, Mom. It's like, oh my God, Joubin, you make me feel so bad for you. Like, this is one of, like, the most saddest childhoods, not the most sad childhood I've ever seen, but especially in JoJo, but this is a pretty sad childhood for Joubin here, and so I assume it just skips straight to the boy being thrown in a trunk, so I assume Joubin was like, Mom, I did this, the body's over here, and they went and picked up the body, because Joubin's not strong enough to carry that body anywhere. The kid was pretty big, so Joubin's just like, Mom, and I'm sure he explains to him that, Joubin doesn't even know what happened, because he doesn't know he has Speed Cane yet, I don't believe. So the next scene is just Kaato throwing the boy into the trunk, and she's just like, step back, Joubin, I'll take it from here. And Joubin says something like he doesn't know what he did. I mean, okay, he says, Mom, why are you putting him in the trunk? We had to hurry and call the ambulance. He's still alive. And then he says, I must have done something to him. So Joubin has no idea that he attacked this kid with Speed Cane. He just thinks that he did something, obviously, to hurt him, but he doesn't know what. So this is the point where we see sort of how much Kaato cares for her family, but also how she will do fucked up things in order to protect them. So this is sort of a gray area of, was it morally correct? Was it the right thing to do? And JoJolion seems to do that a lot. It always seems to, put us in a moral gray area where we have to decide, was this the right thing to do? What would you do in that situation? Because, I mean, Kaato doesn't even know what this kid says. All Kaato knows this child as is someone who probably bullied Joubin. Obviously Joubin's state, he was bleeding, covered in gasoline. So she knows that he bullied Joubin, but she doesn't really know the extent of the words he said, like, I'm going to rape your mom, I'm going to murder you. She just knows that he's a bully, but Kaato is fully ready to murder this kid. But she's not exactly doing it because she wants to just get rid of him. She wants to save Joubin. And I guess she saw this as the perfect opportunity to use as equivalent exchange to transfer Joubin's rock disease. And now she's sort of reassuring Joubin, and she's very happy now because she's like, Joubin, every single day you forget what happens, but not anymore. You're not going to forget anymore. You're going to remember. So she's very excited to be able to save her son. And she's also making him feel better, saying, you didn't do anything, Joubin. You did nothing wrong. If anything, you were just protecting yourself. Like, don't worry about anything. Kaato's a great mother, I think, honestly. And then we see some of Kaato's beliefs saying, I refuse to be a woman whose life is decided by men. I'm deciding it myself. But, Kaato feminist? I'm not sure, but I think the message of this is that Norisuke is a very morally correct person, and Norisuke would never kill someone else or sacrifice someone he didn't know in order to save his son. And I think Kaato has been very upset by seeing Joubin suffer through the rock disease, and maybe Norisuke was just like, it seems like, why haven't they cured him of his rock disease yet if it's this bad? His body's cracking. He can't remember what happened the day before. It seems like now would be the time to act, but they haven't been doing anything. So I assume Norisuke was the one saying, we can't risk someone else's life out of selfishness in order to save our own son. If anything, I feel like Norisuke would maybe say, I myself, let me sacrifice myself to save my son, because that's what my mother did. But it seems like Norisuke wasn't doing that. So maybe Norisuke was saying we have to let Joubin die, maybe, or like we can't use equivalent exchange or anything. So now Kaato is saying, I won't let my life be ran by Norisuke or a man. I have to decide for myself, and I'm going to save my son. So that's sort of how I interpret it when she says, I refuse to be a woman whose life is decided by a man. I think that's Norisuke saying that they're not going to do anything to save Joubin, and her saying, fuck you, I'm going to save my son. And of course, the way that they do this is by equivalent exchange on the land near the Higashikata residence that they've been curing the rock disease for 2 generations now, I believe. The ground around the Higashikata residence is very important. And Kato's like, I remember the legend of Johnny Joestar. She doesn't say anything other than that, but I assume she's remembering how you're able to transfer the rock disease between people on the cursed land. So, and then we see Kaato sort of repeat the same dialogue we heard Tsurugi say earlier in the chapter, where places are unfair. They're not equal for everyone. You don't get to choose the location where you're born. People climb to try to find happiness in those places. And then we see sort of where Joubin got his same ideology from his mother, because she pretty much says the same exact speech that we heard Joubin say a couple chapters ago. She says, Joubin, starting now, you're going to start climbing in this place. And this person is someone who by nature is at the bottom. So Joubin's at his 0 point, and he needs to climb forward. This guy right here is at the bottom, and he's always going to stay at the bottom because that's the kind of person he is. But Joubin can climb higher, I guess is what Kato's trying to say. Which is true. Some people are just pieces of shit, and they're always going to stay pieces of shit. And some people do start at a very low point, like Joubin having this rock disease and not being able to remember anything, but he has the potential. He is a person that can climb forward. He's not stagnant, and he's not going to be stuck at this point forever. So this very much does relate to Joubin's ideology of the 0 point. Pretty much, it doesn't matter if you're born into a very wealthy family and you're pretty much at the top, that's still your 0 point. And you need to climb higher than that in order to find happiness. Then that gets back into the Blue Lagoon things, to find your Blue Lagoon, because I mean, people by nature, we're greedy. We're never content, So if you start at 0, if you start at very wealthy, that's all you know. You don't know anything more or less than that, so you strive for more. But now moving on to the next page, this is about the closest we've seen to the actual method that the Higashikatas have been using to transfer the rock disease with equivalent exchange. So Joubin carries the boy into behind the shrine, sort of where there's like this cave, and Kaato says there's a deep hole behind the shrine. Take him there and bury him. I'll cover him with soil. Everyone came here doing the same thing. Everyone always. So this is how they do it. This is how they transfer the rock disease between people. It doesn't seem that complicated, so that's why I think Norisuke was really against it. He didn't want to risk anyone else's life to save his own son, sort of out of an act of good morals and not being selfish. Because if it's this easy to get rid of the rock disease, they could have done it really at any point now if they had corrupt morals and didn't care about hurting other people. So then Joubin and Kaato make this eye contact where they sort of know that they're doing bad things, and Joubin's crying, and it's kind of emotional. And that's how Joubin got rid of his rock disease, and that pretty much clears up a lot of questions that we had. Why did Kaato murder a child? She pretty much covered up Joubin's mistake. Well, not Joubin's mistake. Joubin protected himself, injured this child. Kaato saw this and said, this guy is a bad person, and he's going to sink. He's going to, be at 0 for his entire life because he's just a naturally bad person. And, I'm going to take this opportunity to save my son, who I know is sort of, I wouldn't say Joubin's a good person, but he's not as bad as that guy. So Kaato took this opportunity to save her son and also cover up his mistake. So, I mean, it really is a moral gray area. Did Kaato do the right thing, saving her son, but killing this boy who was alive? They buried him alive. Yeah, that's pretty brutal, but, moral gray area. For me, in that situation, I don't know, man. I think Kaato did the right thing. She did the most human thing, and I think Kaato did the right thing, just to save her son. And I'm not saying it's a good thing by any means. I mean, they still murdered someone, and they still buried him alive, just for sort of being a bully. Yeah, he was a bit of an extreme bully, but given the circumstances, Kaato saw an opportunity to protect her family, and she took it, and she executed on that opportunity. And for that, I can respect her. So now we have another time skip more into the future, where Joubin is a teenager now, and this is one of the best scenes in the entire chapter. This chapter skips around a lot. I mean, it starts way in the past, then it goes a little bit more into the future, and then it ends in the present with Josuke and Yasuo. So skipping all over the place, but it's such a substantial chapter, and it has so much good information in it. So you see Joubin in the outfit he wears now as an adult, and he's roller skating around the Higashikata house, sort of the outside of it, and you see Norisuke come up to him and he says, "Joubin, when was the last time you went for a physical? Are you getting periodic checkups?" And Joubin's just like, yeah, I'm fine, Dad, because as you can see, Norisuke is worried about him because at one point he was suffering from his rock disease. He had his cracked skin and he was losing his memory, but now he's just miraculously healed. And Norisuke obviously does not know about the events that happened between Joubin and Kaato that day. But, I mean, Norisuke's not dumb. I think he could maybe put the pieces together with his stand, King Nothing, that literally puts puzzle pieces together. And he probably could have assumed that Kaato did something, but I don't know. I guess he hasn't figured that out. So we see that Joubin is 16 at the time, and he already has his scars from his sort of rock disease healing. And I think that's cool how Joubin got his scars. He was suffering from the rock disease, and then it was healed. And it adds more to his character, and he just looks so cool. He's still got the little pin in his hair. He's also wearing like a headband. Awesome. And he's like, "Dad, I'm perfectly healthy. It's like every day is summer vacation." Reference back to the chapters, Every Day is Summer Vacation. And he's like, "Dad, why don't you go for a physical? You're looking pretty old." And it's just like, Joubin's a happy kid now. He's not suffering from rock disease. He's roller skating around. He's hanging out with his family. And, what went wrong, Joubin? Why'd you become a gopher? Okay. And then you see Hato as an adult, and she's like, "Oh, that looks so cool. I want to try the roller skates." And then she's like, and then Kato's yelling at Joshua, "Please don't play with those clean pajamas hanging out around the clothesline." And then we see all of the babies of the Higashikata house. We see baby Joshua playing with the pajamas that he was just told not to play with. We see baby Daya being held by Kaato, which looks hilarious. And then Kaato is a little bit older, and then Joubin, obviously 16, is the eldest son. And Tsurugi, of course, now Kaato is pregnant with Tsurugi now at this point in time. So there's the whole family, all the chibis. And Norisuke obviously has his suspicions now, how he's like, okay, Joubin's 16. Joubin's 16. He was suffering from the rock disease at 10, but he hasn't died yet. What the fuck is going on? And he looks around and he turns around. So Norisuke is kind of dumb, honestly. So. And then, of course, after this big happy scene of the whole family hanging out at the house, Joubin roller skating, things come crashing down, where there was a team of archaeologists, I believe. Okay, male and female of a foreign species of snapping turtle got out of their tanks, while the part-time workers were searching in the area in the turtles an attempt. Okay, they found the skeleton underground. So apparently some turtles, I thought it was archaeologists first time I read the chapter, but no, it was apparently some snapping turtles got out, and the people went looking for the snapping turtles, and they found the skeleton of the boy, and they almost immediately identified the boy as the one who went missing 5 years ago. I mean, Kaato wasn't very, she didn't know what she was doing. They found her DNA all over his wrists and pretty much everywhere. And then when they searched the car, they found the boy's DNA in the car. And Kaato was pretty much nailed to rights, convicted of murder. So then Kaato, without hesitation, accepted her fate and served a full 15-year sentence. And it's also stated that she was a model prisoner. So, I mean, she honestly probably got out earlier than expected, and she just did everything right. She just accepted her fate. She knew what she did, and she just went through prison. Accepted that. Hard shit, Kaato. I respect that. So then finally, we're out of the flashback, and we're back into present time with Josuke and Yasuo. So like I said, this chapter is all over the place, starting with Tsurugi's inner monologue, and then we get the Kaato Joubin flashback, why she murdered the boy, how she got arrested, and then boom, back into when Joubin's 16 years old, and now into the present. So like I said, a very, very substantial chapter that gave us a lot of answers to the questions we've been asking. So that's great to see. These are the kind of chapters I want every month. Just plot progression at its finest. So then it's sort of a skip, as we know the last chapter left off with Gappy and Yasuo at the pond. And I was like, oh, I wonder how the next chapter is going to start. Maybe Joubin's going to be at the pond or someone else is going to be at the pond with them and they'll attack them. But no, I guess we don't see how they left the pond. They're just on a bus now and they're talking. And Yasuo was like, hey, that Dolomiti guy, I know we beat him up so bad that he passed out, but was it really okay to leave him there? And Josuke is just like, yeah, he's fine. Don't worry about him. What I'm more worried about is what he said. And I didn't think too much about this until I had a discussion with Medi on Discord about this. And he was like, I think I'm going to make a video on how Medi's a sociopath. I was like, what are you talking about? And he was like, Dolomiti murdered so many people with his stand, so many innocent people. He murdered a baby. He murdered pretty much everyone who was infected by Blue Hawaii for no reason at all. Innocent people. And Gappy's just like, nah, he's good. I don't care. Like, I don't care what he did. I don't care at all. Like, he doesn't need any justice served or anything. So I guess I made the defense that Josuke, he's more focused on his goals right now, and he's not really a vigilante. He doesn't care about serving justice or anything. But yeah, Dolomiti did murder a bunch of innocent people, and Josuke just said, yeah, he's fine. Just leave him at the pond. So when Josuke said he was more concerned about what Dolomiti said, we skip back to the pond, skipping all over the place this chapter, skipping back to the pond, and then we see some of the more of the dialogue that Dolomiti and Josuke had together, and Dolomiti's just like, I don't know anything, it's the reason I'm here at this pond that I'm safe and I don't know anything, Joubin's just a gopher, don't worry about Joubin, like he's just working for a higher power, and he just keeps going on, reinforcing the fact that he doesn't know anything, and that's the reason why he's safe and why he's still alive, because he knows so little about what's happening with the Rokakaka trade. And even when he says he knows so little about it, he knows everything we know. The Aphex brothers, Dubiwa's user, Vitamin C Damo's user, all of those people, everything that we know about the trade so far is just what Dolomiti describes as a little part of it and knowing, like pretty much knowing nothing about the actual trade. So this is much bigger than we think it is. And Dolomiti's almost giving Josuke a warning, saying, you know all of this about the Rokakaka, you need to back off before it's too late. So even though, like, at this point, I thought we knew almost everything there was to the Rokakaka, except for the history and its origins. I thought we knew pretty much most of the people who were in charge of it, but apparently we don't know anything, because everything we know so far is still enough to keep us safe. But if we knew any more, then we would probably have to be killed by whoever it is that's else involved in this giant Rokakaka trade. And then Josuke is like, who are you talking about? Like, who is going to hurt us if we know more? Are these more enemies? And then Dolomiti says this isn't about Joubin anymore. Like, don't worry about And also, Joubin's not main villain. I still had a sliver of suspicion about him and the way JoJolion was going to pan out. But after this chapter, absolutely not. Joubin's not the main villain. Nowhere near. If you still think that, you need to stop that right now. But yeah, this is... JoJolion is going to be on a much larger scale than what we thought it was going to be. So then Dolomiti keeps going on, just talking about Rokakaka, saying they have infinite value. You ate the new type of Rokakaka. Wow, you fused with someone. That's incredible. And then he just sort of sinks and passes out. And then we skip back to the bus, and Joubin sort of goes into super detective mode. This happens sometime in JoJo in general, where the character will just be a super genius out of nowhere. This happened in Steel Ball Run when Johnny first encountered alternate universe Diego when he was fighting against Diego with the world. After like 2 seconds of fighting Diego, he goes, huh, he must have the ability to stop time. I'd assume for about 5 seconds or so. It's like, Johnny, how the fuck did you come to that conclusion after experiencing this battle for so little? Like, Johnny was just a genius out of nowhere. And Gappy is sort of having one of those moments here where he's like, the way Dolomiti talked to me, he wasn't talking to me. He was talking to someone else. And that's sort of Araki telling us what's happening by making Josuke seem like a super genius. Although, yeah, Dolomiti was sort of being very obvious that he didn't know anyone. Like, I don't know anything about the Rokakaka trade, Josuke. I don't know anything about it. Like, yeah, it might have been very obvious, but Gappy comes to the conclusion, which is obviously the truth, that Dolomiti wasn't saying those words for Josuke. He was saying it for sort of a big brother aspect, someone who was always watching, always listening, so sort of to protect himself. And Dolomiti, I really liked his character when he was first introduced, but I don't really like him at all anymore. It's like his body's destroyed. He's living by the pond. He has nothing to live for, but he's still so attached to his life, and he cares still so much about it when he has nothing to live for. Like, he's so selfish. So Gappy says it's like he was trying to push the fact that he had nothing to do with the new Rokakaka to somebody. He knew that we were being watched by someone somewhere. Then Yasuo says, what do you mean? And then Josuke's talking about how they had to have found out about the plant appraiser, and Yasuo was like, no, that can't be. I came and saved you. But he's like, no, before you got there, Dolomiti used his seemingly changing stand ability to control my brain and make me say words, because I guess that's how Blue Hawaii works. But yeah, so Dolomiti, not even Dolomiti knowing, just Dolomiti saying the words, just Josuke saying the words about the plant appraiser, where he is, and who he is, and also the information on the phone. Just by Josuke saying that, some greater power, much greater than Dolomiti and Jobin's whole group, they immediately found that information and they immediately went to attack the plant appraiser. So this is like Illuminati shit. Like there's like this it's really like a Big Brother aspect of always being watched, always being listening, like a secret service type thing that knows everything about the Rokakaka, that's aware of everything that's happening. So like if you remember back in the chapter when Josuke was like, I'm going to meet the plant appraiser, he lives on mountain, this. There was someone listening to that. There was someone watching and someone listening, and as soon as he said that, a group of people, I'm assuming, or just one person, went and attacked the plant appraiser. So this is some scary shit. And then while Gappy and Yasuo are still on the bus saying that, someone found out that information. They heard me talking and they saw the information on the phone. It wasn't Dolomiti, it was someone else. And then we see the bus driver do something very strange, almost like he's being controlled by Blue Hawaii. He gets up out of the driver's seat, starts walking towards, the central area of the bus, towards Gappy and Yasuo. He has this look on his face that's almost sort of menacing. And then, Yasuo says, hey, the bus is still moving, Mr. Driver. Can you get back in the seat? Like, the bus is still moving, and the bus driver gets out of his seat, starts walking, and then just falls over, completely face plants. And then we see Plant Appraiser. He showed up. He's here, and he just says, don't get the wrong idea. Higashikata Josuke, it seems you spoke to the enemy about me. You need to protect me. They've already come to me. That driver was no good. I'll drive. I had to say all of his dialogue there because that's the only dialogue we got from Plant Boy this chapter, and he is so fucking cool. I made an entire video talking about the Plant Appraiser, what he's kind of going to be like, and what maybe his stand-up is going to be like, and he is not disappointing. Although his face does seem to have changed a bit. He has a very, he looks very much of Japanese descent and sort of very pudgy face as well. Much more. He looked like Michael Jackson before in the previous pictures that we saw him in. But whatever, I'm fine with his design. It hasn't changed at all. Clothing-wise, hat-wise, hair-wise, his design hasn't changed at all, which is great now that we're actually seeing him in person. So the Plant Appraiser is serious shit. He's already being an incredible badass. So I mean, yeah, those people, as soon as Josuke said that information, they went and they tried to attack the Plant Appraiser. The Plant Appraiser tracked down Josuke, and he gets on the bus, and he says, don't get the wrong idea. It seems you spoke to the enemy about me, which is weird, because he doesn't seem to resent Josuke at all. He's not like, you snitched on me or something, like, I have to attack you. He's like, you snitched on me. You have to protect me. Like, so it seems the Plant Appraiser is very in the know on this situation, and it seems like that Josuke didn't give the information about him on his own will, that he was forced to or something. So the Plant Appraiser is very in the know and knows everything that's happening. It seems like Norisuke probably already explained Josuke's situation to the Plant Appraiser, so he's very in the know. And he's just going to be a total badass. And it seems that we've already seen the first glimpse of his stand ability that he used on this guy. I mean, I don't even want to try to theorize what his stand ability may be. I'm sure this review has already gone on very long. But he got up out of his seat. He was conscious. He just started walking, and then he just fell over. So maybe another sort of controlling stand similar to Blue Hawaii, or maybe a poison-based stand. Like I don't know. He had to control the guy in some way because the guy just, without resistance, got up out of his seat. It was weird stand ability. We'll see what it is, but I'm sure that was the first use of his stand ability that we've seen. And the next arc that we're going to get into, the Plant Appraiser arc, it may be inspired by the movie Speed because it's taking place on a bus, and the Plant Appraiser seems like he's going to be driving very fucking intense because he said, this driver's no good. Get this driver out of here. Like, I'm driving now. I'm in control. I am the captain. And, like, it seems like it's going to get very intense from this point on. So I guess another running arc, sort of escaping arc, but and Yasuo says, I know that face. You're the fruit appraiser, or you're the fruit appraiser. So this chapter was so fucking good. This chapter was so good, and it gave us so much information about JoJolion. So JoJolion, this is pretty much the climax. JoJolion is picking up from this point on. Like, we're introduced to so many new concepts. Like, there's a big brother looking down on everything that has to do with the Rokakaka, and this is a new group of enemies. I mentioned back in previous reviews that I thought Dolomiti was going to be the one that brings in the next batch of enemies, but I guess there's just a batch of enemies that's above Joubin that are going to be the next people that we're going to be fighting. So I'm not sure if this is going to be an entire new group of people where we have to take out multiple enemy stand users, or the person that's chasing the plant appraiser right now is going to be the main villain. So theories is that the group that's chasing the plant appraiser right now that already went to his house to attack him or you sort of extort him for information, that is going to be a group controlled by all new characters, higher up people in the Rokakaka trade, or it's going to have to do with Kaato, who is seeming to be main villain. I know a lot of people who have been preaching Kaato main villain. I haven't been I haven't been in denial of that theory or anything. I just didn't think Kaato was going to turn out to be main villain, but now it's very much looking that way if it turns out that Kaato is the one in charge of this group that's attacking the plant appraiser, which may be. So who knows? Very exciting chapter, very suspenseful, very full of information, and best chapter we've had in such a long time. Let me tell you, it was a great chapter, and the plant appraiser, Plant Boy, has finally showed up, and it's exciting shit. This next arc is going to be good. This is why I love JoJolion. It's been hard to express my love for JoJolion with Blue Hawaii going on for 4 months, but these are the moments that make me love JoJolion and why it's up there as probably my favorite part. I know it has its flaws, but there's just something special about it. So alright guys, that was JoJolion chapter 64, an amazing chapter, and I love talking about this. I love doing the JoJolion reviews, some of my favorite videos to make. But anyways guys, thank you all for watching. Like the video if you enjoyed, or if I fought your boredom, and of course subscribe for more videos. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. And remember that Plant Boy is best boy, right up there with Tsurugi, tied.
Do you remember the 21st night, September?